This episode of Happy Jack's RPG Podcast is sponsored by Decima, kickstarting February 2nd.
I'm in Max. You are listening to Happy Jack's RPG Podcast. I'm in Max. Pursuing the RPG hobby with reckless abandon.
Why, hello!
Hello!
Welcome to Season 26, Episode 4 of Happy Jack's RPG Podcast. My name is Stu.
My name is Kimmy.
I'm Stork.
This is Gina.
It's a Gina sighting.
Yay!
She's been spotted in the wild.
Your mic is muted.
Mine is?
No, hold on. There you go. Now try. Talk again.
Talking again.
There we go.
There it
Cool.
is.
All right. In this episode of Happy Jack's RPG Podcast, Jeremy in Missouri writes in about PC Backstories. John from Iowa asks about GMing with OneNote. And Andreas writes in about game pacing and pick up and play games. But first, if you'd like to email us, you can email us at happyjacksrpg@gmail.com. That's happyjacksrpg@gmail.com. We have a forum, happyjacksforum.com. That's happyjacksforum.com. We're on the social medias. happyjacksrpg, all one word. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, MeWe. And we live stream, by the way, every Friday at 7:09 p.m. Pacific Time. happyjacks.org/live. But before we begin, we have two announcements to make. First off, Rainbow Railroad is still going on.
Woo!
Yep.
Our fundraiser for Rainbow Railroading is still going on. Our fundraiser for Rainbow Railroad is an organization that works to relocate LGBTQ people in dangerous countries to safer places. Go to happyjacks.org/rainbow to donate. We're attempting to reach our goal of $10,000. We're a little over halfway there.
Yep.
Which is the approximate cost of relocating one person. And secondly, this episode is sponsored by Decima, which is kickstarting in 2 days.
2 days.
What's the date on that? Date and time on that?
February 2nd. So it's 02/02/2020 at 2 p.m. Pacific time.
Nice.
You couldn't get 202. They probably don't give you minutes to start.
Yeah, I don't think they.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's in 2 days.
Yeah.
Nice.
Whoa!
That's pretty good.
So
What a
meta.
coincidence!
It's really cool.
Tutu.
Decima is the R&D for your RPG. A tarot-inspired card game that works with any tabletop RPG system or setting. In one session, Decima helps create all the details for a campaign, including key locations, character connections, and setting conflicts. It can add depth to a pre-written adventure or create a homebrewed game from scratch. Decima is a big world building tool that fits into a little box of cards. Learn more at goldenlassogames.com. That's goldenlassogames.com.
Well done.
How's that?
That was good.
Okay.
Big miss not having you do the
funny
Kickstarter video.
It's so funny that you're reading the copy that she wrote.
I wanted it to be like official.
Right.
Yes.
I'm trying to make it like.
It's a host read.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very official.
Were you mouthing along with him?
No.
No, she wasn't. She was checking the text to make sure everything.
No, actually, I was trying to straighten our name tags, and then you banged on the table. It was like,
Oh my god.
All right. Yeah, Kimmy's working on that, by the way. Full disclosure.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
Game designer.
We're not unbiased, but do the thing. We have a
On February 2nd
It's a solid game. It really is.
at 2 p.m.
yes.
Pacific time?
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, didn't want to do it.
It's like 11 a.m. Eastern time. And sometime earlier than that even.
I was told there would
You
be
can
no
sign up
math.
for
No,
Is that the way
reminders
around?
and stuff.
It's the other way around. No.
Yeah.
So like 5 p.m.
See?
Eastern time and like last
Wow.
Tuesday if you're in Europe.
Yeah.
Math.
Sunday evening, afternoon. It's fine. It's fine.
Time travelers.
Oh, we'll mention it on the... What are we playing? Vampire on
Yes.
Sunday? We'll mention it on the Vampire on Sunday.
Poor Stu. What game am I running now?
Where am I?
People are showing up. Which people are
I
you?
started prepping for the wrong game. I'm like, oh, I just had a neat idea for Call of Cthulhu.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, it's going to be a while before we do that.
Yeah.
All right.
That's one of the reasons we're kickstarting this Sunday, because I don't want to be stuck in a game, like, refreshing. I'm sorry, what's happening? Don't care.
That's our cue. We can have all of the name tags crooked, and Kimmy will not notice on Sunday.
Yeah, she will.
I will so notice.
She watches.
Because I'll be sitting there refreshing and, like, switching between pages, because I will be on the computer completely, like, obsessed.
All right. PC Backstories from Jeremy in Missouri, or Missouri, if you're a local, I'm told. That's how my relatives pronounced it. Dear Happy Jacks, I love the discussion about appropriate PC backstory length and detail in Season 12, Episode 19, or Season 25, can't read, Episode 19. I would like to offer my own guidelines for the matter. A good backstory should perform two functions above all else. 1. Establish role-playing cues for the player, and 2. Provide story springboards for the GM. I think I agree with that. To what I'm certain will only be your great delight, I feel I must tell you about my character. Oh God! To illustrate these conceits.
It is just sort of like a oh God moment every time you hear those terms. Let me tell you about my character. Oh God.
That's why I named my first collection of music, Let Me Tell You About My Character. It was irony. Insert host unison groan here. That wasn't unison at all. It wasn't.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Here's the Spark Notes of the Cliff Notes version. My current D&D PC is a drinky bard who attempts to mask his overwhelming sense of self-loathing with exaggerated bravado. I know. He's a penniless college dropout, mired in the midst of a multi-year writer's block.
I'm feeling a little attacked here. I'm feeling a little attacked, aren't you? This is like half our band.
I don't have writer's block right now.
Right now.
Right now, I don't have writer's block. I have a songwriting block. There was that one time about a year ago when he finally composed, or decomposed, what was, in his esteem, a song worthy of performance. Largely, his song went unnoticed by the pub crowd, but a sad-faced elven flower girl did press a rose to his chest at its conclusion, a token he keeps flattened within the pages of his journal, which has no other writing in it. Not since then. He lives with his ex-girlfriend, too poor to afford his own home and too lazy to solve his money problem.
Yeah, that's a bard, all right.
To his horror.
What do you
or
call
a bass player.
What do you call a lead guitar player without a girlfriend?
Homeless.
That's right.
I saw it. It was a satirical news article, and someone had actually made it look like it had been in newsprint, and it says, "Groupie mistakenly sleeps with bass player." It's this big long story. It's like, I feel like such an idiot. I should have checked to see what instrument first. Let's see, where was I? To his horror, the ex's new lover, a local barrel-chested, butt-chinned adventurer named Storm Steelhammer,
Butt-chinned.
also porn star, has shacked up as well. This is awesome. The PC has a cat familiar of unknown origins that he senses would do him great harm with great joy, opportunity provided. Would do him great harm with great joy, opportunity provided.
It's a cat.
The familiar hates him.
That's what cats do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All cats are just looking at you like, yeah.
One day you're going to die. I'm going to eat you.
You're just too big to
I'm going to
bother.
burrow and eat your liver.
Dogs do it too.
Smart. Yeah.
It takes a
We've
lot
talked about
longer.
this before.
It takes longer.
Look up Mary Province.
I'm going to not.
To the first point, establish role-playing cues, I wanted to start with a caricature, then add granularity with every minor detail I considered. So while my big initial concept was low self-esteem struggling artist who is his own worst enemy, my ultimate goal was to explain why that initial concept is true. In doing so, I provided myself with character motivations and a mindset, elements that make role-playing this character so fun and natural. To the second point, provide the GM with story springboards, I handed the GM an absolute gold mine. I intentionally laced hooks with every major detail, winking and nodding and indicating to my GM that, yes, I do want to be fucked with. One caveat here is that, as a player, I have to acknowledge that exploring any and all of these story threads is now strictly the prerogative of the GM. Yeah. I rolled the ball. It's up to him whether he kicks it. Kickball reference. You don't get a lot of those. You get baseball references or football references, sometimes soccer references, but we don't get many kickball references here.
No.
I can't.
It's appropriate since it's Super Bowl Sunday.
Kickball.
Yeah, I know.
Is that what they play?
No.
But they,
What sport did they play at Super Bowl?
Never mind.
Super Bowl Sunday. I've only watched one. I can't be.
You didn't watch it. You just watched the commercials.
Well, yes. I've been to like 3 Super Bowl parties in my life, and the game's on. It's like, oh, hey, how's it going? Oh, shh, commercials.
Yeah.
Now I just watch them on YouTube.
Yeah, that's the thing everybody's doing now.
I have to actually sit in front of a football game. I can't be so married to the notion of these ideas receiving table time to the detriment of someone else's enjoyment of the game. So that's my take. To each their own. Be well, friends. Jeremy in Missouri. Jeremy on the forums. Copper Dragon on the old forums. P.S. What are you drinking? I miss the days of pursuing the RPG habit with reckless abandon and beer, or wine, or vodka, or whatever poison is for the night. I'm drinking LaCroix coconut flavor, which isn't very good, but if you put a little lime in it and stir it all up...
And the coconut?
Really? You know that? I actually like the coconut. It tastes like cream soda to me.
No.
I'm not catching cream soda there.
I don't taste like coconut.
It's been a while since I had one. Oh, I can see that. It's got kind of almost like a cream soda mouthfeel to it.
Yep.
Nope.
Interesting.
It also tastes like you're drinking sunblock.
Well, pina colada. Yeah.
Or tropical.
Ooh, yeah.
What's it called? Tropical. What was the tanning oil? Tropical.
Bain de Soleil?
Tropical sun.
Sun?
Was it Tropical Sun?
Yeah.
Sounds right.
It's. I remember that it's because my sister was on the Gong Show once, and you got
What?
this massive supply of tropical.
Wait a minute.
Something.
How have I known you for years and I just am hearing this story?
Me too. I've known it for over 20 years. And it's like,
That's like important
They
stuff.
don't win.
you don't get to just mention that and move on
No.
casually. Now you got to say, well, all right, after we're off the air, you got to explain this.
But yeah, she came with a big case
real.
of
Right.
whatever the Hawaiian Tropic.
Okay.
Hawaiian Tropic was the name of
Okay.
and it was like it wasn't sunblock.
The
This is
lifetime
long
supply?
before it wasn't a life. It was a lot. It was a big case.
Well,
all
hello,
different.
Gong Show. So, yeah.
Well, and since you can't use that stuff anymore because basically it just
SPF
fries you, it's a
0.
lifetime supply.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
You can cook with it.
Yeah.
I don't know what the Gong Show is.
The Gong Show was a show
Yeah.
run Chuck Berry.
Chuck Barris.
Chuck Barris. Yeah, Chuck Berry's a
Who
different
that
guy. It was a kind of like a talent show,
Oh, okay.
but they would have 3 people, usually celebrities or comedians, and they had a big gong behind them.
Oh.
And if the person got through their act without someone hitting the gong, they would all vote on it, and they would say, "Oh, I liked it," blah 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 blah, and they'd give them points. And I think the most each person could give them was 10, so 30 was the best score you could get. But if any one of them didn't like it, they would pick up the big thing and hit this big. I mean, it was a big gong too. It was probably as big as this thing.
Yep.
And they hit this gong, and then and they'd come out with the shepherd's hook and pull them off stage.
And unlike America's Got Talent, which is classy with people cry and weep and lighting and all that, this was just they usually found the most rando acts.
Oh yeah,
like the unknown comic who'd come out with a bag on his head and tell
Right.
terrible jokes.
So is your sister on it? Is that how
She
she
was a
won
pro-
sunblock?
Yeah.
And she had sunblock.
promotional consideration paid for by
Yeah.
Hawaiian Tropic.
Right.
And this and that.
Oh,
Yeah.
did she ring the gong or did she?
No, they made
perform?
it to the end of it, and they got 29 points, but someone got 30. She did not know. Yeah.
That's respectable.
What
That's
they
good.
do?
I mean, I
They
guess.
sang a song. I can't remember what song it was. I knew he was a man, a real big spender. Come on.
Oh, hey,
Sweet Charity.
Spender.
Hey,
Yeah.
big spender.
Spend
Sweet
a
Charity,
little
yeah.
time.
Yep. No,
That's what you were.
I think that was the song. This is a long time ago. This is like 40 years
I
ago.
bet it's on the internet.
It's
I was
Sweet
gonna
Charity.
say,
It might
yeah.
be.
It's Sweet Charity.
It
It's
might be.
Fosse.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway,
Fussy, fussy.
You produce a fantastic show. This is my first email. Well, thank you for sending us an email. But I've been a listener since early season 3.
Nice.
I'm a hardcore lurker.
Yeah.
Thank you for your devotion to this craft. It means more than you know.
Oh,
You're very
thank
welcome.
you. Yeah.
And as far as us mostly drinking water, we've kind of gone that way on Friday nights lately. But I think we're also, a lot of us, letting our livers recover from our stream last weekend, the 24-hour marathon.
Truth.
A lot of people had a lot to drink.
I didn't drink because
Yeah.
my game
Well,
was
'cause-
8 a.m.
Right, yeah. And you and I have to keep everyone else, like, on.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man, I also had to lay down the law because, like, last year's stream,
You get a little
oh,
drinky.
man, people got super drinky. I was like, okay, if you can't remember the rules to your game, you are too drunk to play.
They were drinky and sleep deprived. 'Cause some people were doing back-to-back
Yeah,
drinks.
yeah. It was craziness. And it's very entertaining.
I do remember opening the door because I think I was like an early morning bit, and just these wacky people spilled out. It was like, they would all look like anime characters with the spiral eyes. I'm like, oh my god.
There's something that happens to your brain when you start an activity in the middle of the night until the sun comes out. The human brain is not meant to work that way. We are diurnal creatures.
No, yes.
All right. Now, I found this interesting because some of the plot sort of hooks or whatever he gave. Mm-hmm. Now, he didn't specify everything that was in it because he gave us obviously the Spark Notes / Cliff Notes version of it.
And thank you for saying it's Cliff's Notes, which is awesome.
Yes, Spark Notes is another brand of Cliff Notes, isn't it? I think.
Yeah, they're 2 different brands, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
Cliff Notes was the yellow and black little books. We didn't have Spark Notes when I was in college, so
I know them both.
But the thing, it looks like most of your plot elements had to do with you. Mm-hmm. Now it seems like he was getting, like, nodding and winking towards other things that might be happening in the game, and I think that's an important thing, because if all the plot hooks you're giving the GM are just stuff that deals with you and the PCs that make up your backstory, that's a little spotlight hoggy, I think. You know what I'm saying?
It can be. It depends on how the GM wants to utilize them. Because I did that with Ransom, and you incorporated a lot of his stuff and got the party involved, and I did it with Albert as well. And
That's true.
And Albert's backstory featured prominently in much of the drama on that mode,
Especially early on.
Vampires.
Yes, yeah.
So, but that's up to you. That's the skill of you bringing in my crazy sire and involving her with all the other vampires.
Yeah, I think that's the key right there. It's not just you dealing with this thing. It's like bringing it in so it's a conflict for the whole party.
Right.
So that, like, it became a danger to all of us. So suddenly it was something we all cared about. It wasn't, we're going to sit here and watch while you interact with, your ex from the past who really has no threat or anything to do with us, things like that.
Right.
So pulling in select things that can become conflict or interest for the whole party.
Right.
Or somehow weaving it in with other people's stories so that they have buy-in too. Because you could even say, like, I have a rival who's this big bad, but because you're saying you're it's your rival, like, it could be all about you, but if the GM, like Kimmy says, is weaving it in and kind of saying, trying to get hooks from other players involved in that, then it makes it more campaign friendly versus
like if the rival or the enemy starts trying to get at you by going through the people you're hanging out with.
Well, you're hanging out with them, so by I think that's the takeaway from this, is that in order to keep it from being entirely spotlighty, is to take those nuts that he's given you and see what you can do to involve the entire party.
Right. The other thing, plot hook wise, I really like vague plot hooks. Like Bruce, in the very first D&D game we ran when Happy Jacks before Happy Jacks had quite started, I've got an enemy, I pissed someone off. I don't even know who it was and what it is I did. I'm like, great! Thank you. That gives me an enormous amount of flexibility. And I ended up making it, a minion of one of the big bad guys, and came up with something, and then I think the session before that or something, I pulled him aside and I said, so this is what I'm thinking you did? Is this something your character would do? Oh, yeah.
I still don't remember that thread in that game.
No, yeah.
I don't remember that at
happened.
all.
That game ran for a while.
I sure did. I just remember...
And the sessions were long.
Yes.
Yeah.
But at least for me, the vaguer more vague the plot hook is, the easier it is for me to find a place to put it where it's going to have a lot of impact and where it's going to have an effect on the whole party. It makes it much easier. At least I think so. Plus, you never know. I mean, sometimes you want to have a tone conversation before the game, but sometimes the GM has like ideas of like it's going to kind of start this and it's going to kind of transform into this as the game goes on. I'm not talking about tone like we're going to play a dark game versus a lighthearted game, but I'm talking about where setting wise what's going to happen, where the party's going to be. You know what I mean? You don't want to telegraph too much about what's going to happen. Some GMs do, but I don't. And sometimes I don't know. But it's nice if the more vague it is, the easier it is for me to find a spot, either in the initial setting. Like if I tell everyone, okay, the game's going to start in the city, so everyone assumes it's going to be a city game, but it's going to go farther, but the party doesn't know that yet. If it's very vague in general, I can adapt it somewhere else without too much of a problem. So that's one thing.
I remember. I think it wasn't City of Heroes. It was the other one. It was an online massive online superhero game.
Oh, it was Champions Online.
It was Champions Online, and you filled out like a sort of a questionnaire of what your nemesis was. Kind of like what he looked like, what his name was, not really what he looked like, just sort of what his name was. Maybe you did design him and stuff, and then he would just show up. They would incorporate these little stories and stuff.
That was so freaking cool.
It was, but it was like
really
you
cool.
just sort of filled out some stats, some basic stats, and maybe designed his outfit, what he looked like, and his name, and then they plugged him into the.
And then he would show up.
He would show up like he's the leader of robbing the bank, or he was behind it. So it was cool, but it was vague enough that they were just able to plug this character that you created in at any point in the game.
Right.
I think that, for the most part, the backstory should be to help you as a character, right, come up with your stuff and your motivations. So
that's one thing I had not thought about. I always think about it from the GM perspective.
I know
what I want as a GM from the backstory. I did not think about because I don't think I've ever done that. That may be why the first couple of sessions when I'm playing a character, I kind of struggle with how to do that characterization.
Yeah.
If you know that your character is from landed gentry and that and mom died in childbirth and dad was distant, that really informs a lot of stuff or whatever it is.
I do that same thing too. It's probably it's not a specific quantity, but like it's a few things that as I'm making the character, I'm feeling that this character is going to be like. What he was saying, if it's like somebody who's lacking self-confidence or overcompensating, or like you might come up with like 2, 3, 4 cues, but sometimes I know where those come from and sometimes I don't. So like you said, you might just say this comes from, being really embarrassed on an adventure with so-and-so at some point, but you don't know what that is. Or
And that's one of the things that sort of is lacking in the Traveler creation as much as I want, but it's really just events that have shaped you. You really still have to come up with a personal backstory about how how you grew up or how you interact with the world to give you some motivations as a character, because the rest of the stuff that Traveler gives you is just
it's kind of a history.
Yeah.
But I mean, you could use that to determine this horrible event happened.
Yeah.
And after that event, then this guy became a freaking coward, and then abandons his party every week.
But this is like so in depth with his sense of self-loathing and exaggerated bravado, and his he might get penniless college dropout from your Traveler thing, but it's up to you to come up with a drinky bard who attempts to mask his overwhelming sense of self-loathing. That's like part of an internal backstory
and a very uncomfortable Three's Company living arrangement.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Right. And that really does motivate you as your character. I mean, that's why actors come up with backstories or have one, created for them when they, take on a role, because it informs all that stuff. I know it sounds
what's my motivation?
I don't understand. Well, and that's a true thing.
It is.
Especially when you shoot out of order, like, I have no idea what's going on. Why is it I want to do this thing that you're telling me to do?
Good point.
Or I think it's the thing, even in a role-playing game, that helps you find those real moments where you're able to kind of put yourself in the character's head and do your best to, react as they would versus, just whatever.
And an actor's job is to pretend, but you need some information to pretend correctly. And really, it's that simple. But in order for them to, because the camera is this close, and it will, every twitch of the eye is huge and means something. So they literally have to be feeling a feeling when they're being shot. Otherwise you can tell that they're not feeling it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because we're so attuned to body language. So it's...
I killed them, all of them.
All of them.
The women, the children.
And that guy can act, too. It's just...
Oh, yeah, he can.
No, he can. You really...
I think before that, he was nominated for a bunch of awards.
I know Natalie Portman can act, but it's
true.
That was
Ewan
the only
McGregor.
film. Ewan McGregor comes out smelling like roses in that thing, because you watch that and you go, that guy, I know that guy can act.
And apparently can direct himself.
Yeah. Despite the ham-fisted direction, he managed to turn in a good performance. No, don't get me started.
All right.
I know.
Thank you very much for the email, Jeremy, and thank you for the first email. Very much.
Thank you.
Look forward to hearing from you again.
Excellent.
GMing with OneNote from John in Iowa.
You want to read it? Or you want
No, Gina, go.
Oh, okay. I'm going to put on glasses even though I can see it. Because thanks for the big font. Dear Happy Jackers, hello. First, I'd like to start this email by wishing you happy holidays and happy holiday gamings, if you're planning to have any. Surely he meant Valentine's Day, I'm sure.
It's a real holiday. It really is.
I know.
It's the Hallmark holiday.
It is. Second, I have a quick question for Stu. He's mentioned a few times on the show that he uses OneNote to organize the campaigns that he GMs. I'd love to hear a few more details about that. So how exactly do you organize your OneNote notebooks? How many tabs, pages? What do you put on each page, etc.? I'm still relying on physical notebooks and scattered sheets of paper for my GMing, since I've always had trouble going digital. I've mostly used PDFs and Word documents to type my notes, but I've never tried OneNote. That might make things a bit easier. Sincerely, John from Iowa. P.S. I have not listened to the entire backlog, so I apologize if this topic has already been covered.
Don't apologize for not listening to the entire backlog. You maintain your sanity.
You have.
You know what? You should do an instructional video on how you put together a OneNote campaign.
Then I wouldn't have the emails. I for this I opened up the Mongoose Traveler one, which is a campaign that just wrapped a few months ago. I have in this one I have a main. I have a lot of tabs in this. Now, and let me just say, you don't have to use OneNote. You can do this in Evernote. I used to use Google Drive because anything that organizes documents into folders for you or subfolders is going to handle it. But I have at the top I have main, and main has sort of the timeline of the setting, and then it has some stuff that actually doesn't really belong in there, like military organizations and merchant organizations, because I have tabs for organizations later on. But I have a couple of things I was like brainstorming things I was working on, like ancient aliens, and what the politics of the setting is like. And then I have a sessions folder, and the sessions folder is number 2, and it's like each session has its own page. And that is, like if I go to, like session 1, obviously, it starts with, here's a missive from the Exodus Foundation. It's the very first mission you guys were sent on, right? And then I have kind of what might happen when they get to places, and I have a few scenes kind of laid out. But once I get past session 1, then the first thing I put in, and I usually write this the day of the game after the game is over, usually like immediately, is my own sort of summary of what happened during the session. That's the first thing I put in there, right? So it's all fresh. Yeah. And it's all stuff that I think is significant plot points.
And you tried to do that within 24 hours? You said that by the next day or right after?
That night, usually it's that night. And then I have under that I have a heading like this is the stuff that might happen this time. However you arrange that stuff. Then I have a PC tab, the PC or NPC tab. NPC tab has I also put the PCs in the main tab, so they're always in that very top one. So if I need to see what someone's stats are or something like that, or a name of an NPC they're connected to or something, I've got it. And then but the NPCs are. I usually organize them by location. So I'll have because in Traveler, this planet, here's the people they've met, here's the people they might meet.
That makes perfect sense.
Like that. Yeah. And then I have a couple other tabs specifically for Traveler, like technology, because I was talking a lot about how the Traveler world technology at tech level 10 is going to affect a society, and what sort of how they need to compensate for the fact that travel moves slowly and things like that. And then I have a props one where I have the star map, and I have any dossiers or anything that I've printed out for the players. I throw a PDF of that in there because you can put PDFs in it. And then I think probably the most important folder. Then I've got a bunch of other ones. I've got NGOs and other organizations, corporations, government organizations, ships that they've met, and this will either be ships that they might meet later on, or other starships, or ships that I had to come up with on the fly. But the biggest one is the story elements one, I think, and that is where I just sort of use that folder to kind of brainstorm about stuff, like where the plot might go, where the possible meta plots might be, because I didn't like this particular campaign. I didn't know where you guys were going to end up. It could have gone in a lot of different ways because I did an enormous amount of prep for this game. But I've got stuff in here about the hydroids, which is I don't even think we touched on in the game, which is because you had the elders, right, who took over millions of years, or took over the galaxy millions of years ago, before humans were even playing with sticks, right? And another alien species that was based on they were like a gas giant species that lived in gas giants. They sort of very quietly
seeded,
migrated into our galaxy and started taking over. And then suddenly the elders find out about it and they freak out, which is why they created that horrible nanotechnology that ended up causing them to flee. So all that stuff, and a lot of these are written almost like short stories.
And so the hydroids ended up being nuked by the nanotech, and that's why the red spot is on Jupiter.
Maybe, could be. I hadn't thought of that.
You're welcome.
But I had actually did a lot of research on what a gas giant creature might look like, and they're going to be big.
Yeah.
And they're all also going to be very fragile, probably.
Like jellyfish kind of things.
Something
I
like
saw a
that.
whole show.
Yeah.
It's really, really interesting. Yeah.
And if they develop
because they float in the upper atmosphere,
it would take them enormous amounts of time to be able to develop starships. I mean, where do they get the raw materials from? Because the deeper they go, they're going to get crushed like anything else is going to get.
I have a whole theory about cephalopods making spaceships out of frozen methane ice.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Just don't get too close to a star.
They're Enceladus. Well, no, it's even, they'd be like comets and stuff, and that could actually be their propulsion is just the off-gassing of, yeah. They're cephalopods, so they can just go into little tubes and hang out in there.
But in the story element, there's all kinds of stuff in here I never even used. I'm not going to say anything about them because I might use them later.
Yeah.
But that's really the big one. That's kind of where my brainstorming happens.
I like the fact that you have you seem to have tables and lists of names of towns because many's the time when you're I don't know, and you go through that's a good one. Jeremiah Johnson.
Near the bottom, I have a tab called names, and there's EU names, US names, Russian names, and Chinese names. Because there's the four
super helpful
superpowers.
So really that kind of acts as your GM screen. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
Yes.
That's excellent. Do you have a rule, kind of internal rule, for when you need a new tab for something versus having to troll through?
I'm terrible about tab maintenance. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14,
tabs too.
15, 16, I got 18 tabs.
There were a couple of times he's like, I know it's here somewhere. Wait, and it's he'd start counting through the tabs.
Do they have sub? I've not used
tabs don't in OneNote tabs don't have subs.
Okay.
But you can have sub pages because a tab is basically a folder.
Yeah.
So you can have other pages within the folder, but you can't have sub tabs. But you kind of can because you can make sub-documents within.
Okay.
So I like what I do for the vampire game.
Yeah.
Is I'll have Prince Miroslav, right? And then I can have sub-documents underneath that for all of the people who are the Seneschal and the Primogen Council, and all the people that are sort of his immediate underlings.
Yeah.
And then there you can put a plus or minus, click the plus or minus on Miroslav and make all those disappear or come back.
Oh,
So,
okay, cool.
And the other thing I do is when I, like, if I'm running a campaign over and over again, where I'm running a campaign and then doing a continuation, I use the same OneNote document. So, like, all the old stuff from the previous campaign is all down in old sessions, and there's also sometimes old PC tabs and stuff like that.
And I know you called those up occasionally.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
You were like, hold on a minute. Oh, yes, it's this planet, and this happened.
the
And
nice
I'm
thing
like,
is I don't have to delete
Okay.
anything, because it's all text, so it doesn't take up a lot of space.
That I would like a lot. Especially because I remember that in L5R, I think he was doing that, like pulling up stuff.
Yes, oh, absolutely.
But we'd be like, run this, and you're like, yes, I know all about that. Click on the tab, and you do know all about it.
It was.
And that
really
one,
cool.
that one has technically 4 campaigns worth of stuff in it.
Yeah.
And so I mean, the
Yeah.
NPC
It's a
list
neat
is
tool.
huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I put in, if I'm not familiar with the system, and most of them I'm not, is I'll put in a selected rules tab, usually near the bottom, and that's where I will go through. And what I normally will do is I'll get the book out and say, okay, how does initiative work? I'll read the chapter or the thing on initiative, and then I'll write it out in my own words, because I usually write more concisely than the book is going to. And then and I'll do that with combat. Like in Vampire, all the disciplines are in there eventually. Sometimes you can take the PDF and cut and paste them in.
Yeah.
But sometimes it formats weird.
They're too wordy, or the formatting.
Or it's a column this wide, and you have to scroll like 8 miles to find what you're looking for. But and then the grapple rules, of course, and even like just a basic summary of what the dice mechanic is. I always put that at the very top, just so I have that reference when we first start the game. I can say, "Here's how the dice work."
It really is a glorified GM screen that you use it for. But I really you're gotten so facile at it.
It's
You
pretty
literally
uber.
start bopping
Yeah.
around, and then all of a sudden blocks of text you were reciting. Right. I'm like, wow, this is. It's nice because there's none of this. It's all there at your fingertips. Sometimes it's a little hard to figure out what folder it's in, but it's certainly better than flipping through. Wait, it's not this notebook; it's another notebook. And oh wait, I know I have a graphic of that in a folder here somewhere. Hey, you guys talk amongst yourselves.
And that's
There's
one
none
of the reasons I use two laptops when I'm GMing, is because I usually have the selected rules tab on this one, and then like the session tab open on one. Or if we're in the middle of a real story heavy stuff where I don't have to worry about the game rules, one of them's got the session document up, and the other one's got just like the next session thing, so I can start writing notes on what happened. So like if we're in session 2, I've got the session 3 folder open, and I'm writing in things as they're happening that I think I might forget.
Can you open 2 versions of it at the same time?
No.
Maybe have okay.
No. Not in one computer.
That's why you have to have 2, like, or have a tablet and a laptop.
Yeah.
That's what Jib does, like an iPad and a laptop.
Yeah.
And I know Mook is a big, is all about OneNote.
Yeah. And the nice thing, it's all in one place, and it's
It's a free program.
yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is. It's
sold.
Yeah.
It's part of the kind of the
suite.
office. Yeah.
I haven't, like, I tried that one for my Wild Talents game, and I just, like, couldn't, I don't know.
There is probably a learning curve, you got to get used to it. I think.
What did you use then?
I use Notebook still, which is weird because I'm, like, so about having everything online.
Yeah.
Except when I'm jamming.
Okay, boomer.
I know, right? It's weird. But
Oh, no, you didn't.
How long have you been waiting to say that to
it's
her?
forever. Okay, tell me more about the Gong Show, Stu.
It was a fine show.
I know.
And by the way, he was the secret assassin for the
Yeah,
CIA
right.
I was
too.
going to say, because wasn't there a Sam Rockwell movie
That's right.
mostly, and
He says that he maintains is a true story.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
He used to look kind of
I'm so
balloon.
confused with whatever.
And he's in the movie at the very end.
Yeah, I don't know why, though. There's, like...
yeah.
I don't know why. Like, it's just easier for me with GMing with a real notebook still. And I've been looking for, like, an option. I did Google. I think that might be the closest thing I found, that it's, like, really
Google
easy for me
Docs?
to
You can
organize.
totally do it in Google Docs.
Yeah.
Yeah. You just need something where you can organize, because you're going to end up having a lot of documents.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I think it's just easier for me, like, while the players are doing stuff, to write things down still. I
Right.
don't know. Which is dumb, because I take
do.
notes for stuff at meetings all the time.
I do write stuff down,
Yeah.
and I usually have like some kind of either steno pad or a composition book or something that I sit and write notes in. But most of the time, it's like, what are the player characters' names again?
Yeah.
And I write a little like seating chart, so I have all of their names in the right
Yeah.
spot.
I do that. I totally do that.
And I also use pencil and paper for combat for ticking off.
I feel like if I had a system where, because the thing is, in my notebook I have little like colored flags for different things. So it's like I have big tabs and little tabs, like you were talking about, but it's all color coded.
Ooh.
Oh, it's color coded. Okay. I didn't get that far into one net. I tried it. Like I don't remember which campaign it was I tried it for.
Yeah.
But I was like, and then it like sometimes wouldn't sync, and I was really annoyed with it.
I've had a couple of notebooks
that would be annoying.
Utterly disappear. That has happened.
That's terrifying.
Yes.
Okay, that's in the con column.
Yeah.
Sure.
That's
not good.
I had a sync issue in a notebook. One of them wasn't able to sync, and it kind of corrupted the notebook somehow. I don't remember what.
that.
I don't remember which.
Was that a vampire one?
It wasn't vampire because I still have the vampire one.
Okay.
I don't know which one that was for.
Okay.
Because see, like Inukai, the L5R game, I wasn't even using this then. I was the first campaign I was using Google Drive, and I went and just cut and pasted all this stuff into it eventually.
James V in the chat room says you can set up backups for notebooks.
Oh, okay.
It's a really powerful program.
Okay,
There's a
that's
lot of
super
nuances.
Well, I'm
to it.
using whatever it's called, OneDrive or something, so it syncs. So when I can open on any of my devices in it, and I always have.
I have the like Chrome has an app for it, and it's installed, so it's like I have it. I don't know, I should click on it and see what it does.
You can also use it through a web interface. It's clunky, but you can do.
I think that's right. Maybe that's what I was using.
Probably
that might be why I didn't like it. I'll look at it.
The app itself, I don't know if they. I think they make it for Macs too.
Yeah, they do.
And they make it for a lot. They don't make it. I don't think they make it for Linux.
Pretty cool.
Anyway, so there you go.
Linux probably.
Run Linux, you have to make it yourself.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, there's a.
Yeah,
I'm
there's
sure
gotta be
An emulator that makes it
free
work.
version that's.
Yeah.
Cool. All right.
Nice.
Yeah.
So thank you very much,
That was a really good
John
question.
from Iowa.
From Iowa.
It's always nice to see the process. You know, it's sort of like how the film is made and how you do it. It's
Right.
kind of nice to look under the hood and break these things down.
Be
I
in
always
the
find
room
that
where it
stuff really
happens.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
People always want to know how the sausage is made.
Right.
Oh,
Game pacing and pick up and play games from Andreas.
You want me to?
Either one.
Okay.
Ready to go.
Okay. Hello there, Jackers. I found that as I get older and have more things that take up my spare time, I have less patience with the old way of gaming. Like so many of us, I started gaming when I was still at school. The sessions were full of meandering and shopping. Nowadays, when I only have 2 hours a weeknight, I want to get to the juicy parts fast. Sadly, many of the people I game with still engage in personal character development and shopping, instead of the plots and NPCs that clearly are the spotlight for the night. As a GM, I've started to pace my game by interrupting their meandering by the Chandler method. As someone barges in on them, the loaded gun and accelerates the action. Basically, I found I need to herd the players towards faster pacing. I guess pacing a game for one shot, a short campaign arc, or a set of length of, or a perpetual ongoing campaign of yore, they all take different skills.
Yes.
Whew, that was a long sentence.
Yes.
I have found my tool by tossing in verbal grenades and watching the players scramble. But what are the tools you use for pacing your games? Tools and tricks. Also, in a recent episode, you talked about pick-up and play games and expressed doubt that there is such a thing. I would argue that John Harper's excellent Lady Blackbird is such a thing. I've played that game. And it's... I'll tell you in a minute.
I played with you, I think.
You might have been. You can download it, print it out, as players read the pre-gens and skim the one-page rules, and you're off to the races. I'd love to hear Happy Jack's AP of that game. Heck, I'd love to hear too, as the game never ends the same. Thanks for the great show and for all the fun thoughts and years. Gosh, I started listening at season 6.
Yay!
Cheers, Andre and SE. Lady Blackbird, to me, reminded me a lot of Commedia.
Is there a GM?
Yes.
There is. Okay,
Yes.
right. Because that's one of the things that most of the sort of myth of pick up and play games is it's like, players just grab the thing and here's a little rule summary. Oh, GM, you need to read the whole book. And it's 80 pages.
This is literally like 4 or 5 pages, and it's a lot like Commedia in that there's these archetypes
Oh, okay.
There's a Capitano, and there's an Arlecchino, and and then
the bodyguard.
But how you play them is entirely different. Your Capitano could be arrogant. Your Capitano could be a coward. Your Capitano. So each person gets this character, and then they play them however they want.
I feel like 5 of us got that reference, but it was a good one.
I know, but look at Media del Arte.
It was on, and
on point.
I have a confession.
There is a Happy Jacks game of this on the one-shot feed.
Right.
Let's play Lady Blackbird and do an arcade.
From, if you want to go in the Wayback Machine to August of 2018.
Okay.
There's one on there.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay,
and it was
actually,
I played that game. It was lots of fun. But they're totally right. You could play that game for a month of Saturdays and more.
That'd be fun.
Yeah, right?
Is it suitable for a campaign?
Oh, interesting.
You can still keep playing,
Okay.
because you don't have to. It's not like it's a one and done scenario.
Okay.
Because I'm thinking about like
it's kind of Guardians of the Galaxy-esque, so you can easily just go from adventure to adventure, but you stay with the same characters. But the characters are all they're generalized.
They're very hooky.
Yes,
they're very compelling, and the little world that's set up is really compelling. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was,
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe there is
it
one.
It works. I played it at the con, and
man, that would be fun. Like a multiple story arc of
Lady Blackbird.
Yeah.
See, because like 10 Candles, I would not call that pick.
No.
Because the GM's got to read the whole book.
Yeah.
You really, you don't have to read all the scenarios, but you need to understand all of the rules. And it's not, 3 pages or 4 pages. It's,
no, and this
30
is
or 40.
Free online.
Well, oh, okay.
You can download the little the story sheets and the character sheets.
There's another one that's also equally small. It might be a little bit longer than Lady Blackbird, called Cat. Everybody plays a cat, and the cats are the guardians between the supernatural, and they have to protect the human world because humans are too stupid and they don't see all the ghosts and supernatural stuff, and it's up to the cats to protect it. And basically you play a cat. But the rules are really simple, and then you can make a whole adventure out of, protecting the stupid monkey people from their own selves, because clearly they can't take care of themselves. That's why they're there. But that's what cats are. Anyway, he also brings up tools and tricks. So how do you deal with pacing, or do you anymore?
In my getting back to OneNote, in my new sessions document, what I will do. Let me go and look at one of them. Session 3. Last time, the Audie Murphy makes contact with a diplomat. Daniel Jones Smith. Blah blah blah. A bunch of stuff happens, and then I have a list of things that might happen. This might happen at Dolan's Peak. If the party decides to leave for 70 Oppiuchi, here's what might happen at 70 Oppiuchi. If there's a lull, Two Crows may mention that he made a little bit of a breakthrough about the Dolan's lurkers. So I'll have 2, 3, or 4 things that can happen if there starts to be a lull in the game that can kind of, we got something interesting to look at now. Let's go over here and see what's going on over there.
That's exactly how I do it too. When I was doing a mission in Bartable, like if they're here, this is the set of clues or stuff that can happen. They're here. With con games, which is all I've really been doing in the last 10 years or so, I think there's a buy-in that everybody knows we only have a 4-hour window, so everybody's sort of on their best behavior to keep things rolling.
Yes.
With a long-running campaign, it seems like that sort of sometimes stops and it descends into a lot of talking and then personal development and stuff. Nobody's really moving it forward, and I've noticed it can get long. Sometimes people just get distracted. I have noticed that maybe you don't know you do it. You literally, it's not quite a verbal grenade, but here's a plot point happening now.
Right.
Being the police come, or you recognize that person on the street. Remember, and it brings everybody back to, oh yeah, that's right, we were doing a thing.
Right.
And I don't think that that's wrong.
I don't throw it. I mean, I'm running long form campaigns, so you can have it's sort of like the difference between the first Harry Potter movie and the last few Harry Potter movies.
Right.
Yeah. The last few Harry Potter movies, those are con games.
Yeah.
Right? There's no character exposition.
Yeah.
There's no establishment of the scene.
No.
It's like plot. But you look at like the first couple movies when there's, the book's not very big and it's big printing because it's a kid's book. There's not a whole lot of plot in there.
Yeah.
There's some, but a lot. If you watch the films, a lot of big long establishment shots where it's like we're gonna go around the Hogwarts, or you're gonna you zoom in and out the window and Harry's looking at his owl outside, and just these. You have more leisure time when you're running a long campaign, so you can have those moments where you can have these meaningful character interactions and development things happen. But if there is a lull, here's a grenade.
Well, I would say that you and I think I get what Andreas is saying, but there are times you want to allow for that character development, especially when it's inter-party stuff.
Right.
But I guess you would maybe want to watch the other people at the table, or if it goes on and on and on and on, like, how many people is it involving? And then maybe at that point, I would interject, just like, try to find out, like, what they are hoping to get out of that scene or that moment so that you can kind of move on, because sometimes people aren't aware of.
I appreciate really good pacing in my movies and my games.
Yeah.
I think that's really important, and I think it's something that people sometimes, because it can be exhausting for the GM, to keep things moving forward. But I really appreciated covering a lot of ground in the game, because if it starts to get lulled down, people start to look at their phones, they start to get up and they go get food, and they start to check out.
Well, I mean, even when there's like character establishment stuff happening, it's still going to be interesting.
It does.
Yes.
That's like shopping.
Oh my god.
Fuck shopping.
I hate shopping.
Yeah.
It's the worst.
Yeah,
I hate it.
Yeah, I lean into the character development for my games.
Yeah.
Like our last session of Eidolon Academy, there's no combat at all. There's a lot of crazy shit that happens.
Right.
But it's all like, oh god, like drama between people, and we have to hide this from other people, and
that's awesome.
Yeah, which is fun.
Yeah.
But, and it was really interesting the whole time. Like, I was the one who talked the least the entire time. Which I take sometimes.
That's
cool.
Like
yeah.
Yes,
I get to sit there, I'm like, I watched this happen until
I think that's super true.
You just get to be an audience member for a while. Yeah.
And I figure, if I find it interesting, it's interesting. And the minute I start, being like, okay, this is going on too long, then it's like, okay, here's the thing that happens.
Yep.
And
you're haggling over torches now.
Oh, yeah, no. It doesn't happen. But, I kind of do the same thing. And I feel like this goes back to, the modular game design that we've talked about a lot.
Right.
And I think, at least I developed my skill for doing that with one-shots, like what you're talking at a con. Because you do have to keep it moving.
It's really good training.
Yeah, and it's like, just feeling the pace of the group and feeling, okay, are they interested? Oh, and then having things planned for anywhere they might go, just in case. And not necessarily how to solve it, but what you said, if they go to Dolan's Peak, this might happen.
Right.
If they stay sitting in space, this might happen.
Right.
And that's to help you too, because the minute the GM goes,
I have to go to the bathroom.
And everybody goes, okay.
Bathroom break.
And all of a sudden that pacing can stop.
Yeah.
You lead from the front. You lead by example. And so if you are prepared and have those things going, and you just can keep pulling the stuff out, the pace will be faster because of your GMing skill or style. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yep.
I think it's also something that's really important to talk about before you start the campaign in your session 0.
Yeah.
What is the pace? What is the tone of our game? Do we want to focus on character development, or do we want this to be a game where we just do stuff? Do we want this to be more of a dungeon crawl, or this travel game where we're fighting things all the time?
Right.
So that way everyone's on the same page. So you don't get someone who's wanting to do tons of character interaction and development, who then gets stuck in a dungeon crawl.
And the game system will help some of that too. With Traveler, if you're traveling somewhere, there's a built-in 2-week period where you can just talk about stuff.
Oh yeah, every time you guys go from one system to another, you get as much character interaction as you want. You got a week.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, that is really cool about the system, but I think sometimes, too, when you talk about pacing doesn't always mean go, 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 go.
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah.
So sometimes... And I don't think Andreas is saying, oh no, it has to always be I don't know, you're watching John Wick 4 or something, which is amazing. Those are amazing movies. But
they didn't kill his dog again, did they?
Spoilers!
John Wick 1 is how old now?
I don't know, I've never asked him.
Oh my God, you guys.
That was nice of you, Gina, to laugh like that. That was really nice of you.
Could you come back more often?
I love their little cute odd couple dynamic. It's just like, I just want to watch them bicker at each other.
Well, two crotchety old men.
It's been 10 years we've been watching it. Still not old.
Felix and Oscar, you're just going to let it lie there, aren't you? I'm going to go clean that up. It's not spaghetti, it's linguine. Don't you touch it, It's not spaghetti, it's linguine.
I had to do that scene in high school.
It's a classic.
Yeah. All right, sorry.
But I do think...
Why don't you move into the kitchen with your ladle and your meat thermometer? I'm sorry.
No, I don't mind.
It all started coming back to me.
There are always room for Starkisms.
Carry on.
I don't remember.
I'm so
No,
sorry.
because I was laughing. It was a thing. It was a thing about a thing. Oh, what Kimmy was saying about that you talk about some of that stuff you talk about at session 0, or even debrief on your session or before the session. Just say, last time we had a lot of fun, but I know, we spent a little, and we only have 3 hours to game. So I think sometimes, anybody can help with that kind of stuff if you're not feeling like you're getting out of a session what you really want to get out of a session.
Yeah.
It's like the grown-up words.
Yeah.
And feedback.
One thing I have set up, in the past, I don't have it set up right now with any of my players, are, and I do this with my students too, are like signs, because sometimes you'll have that player who gets wrapped up in stuff and doesn't realize it's running long. So, you can use the X card and things like that, but I also have, secret signals with these players. That's, my nice way of GMing, and I'm, talk to them about it in private. So I'm when you see me do this, no, it's something, it's not touching the right side of my nose. It's usually, I won't say what it is, because then everyone will be watching for when I do it.
Or you have code phrases, too.
Yes, I have code phrases, too.
Yeah.
I have those things set up with them, too, and it's, my way of saying, okay, we should wrap this up. Without saying it in front of everybody.
This is like the husband-wife thing when it's
smart.
when it's time to leave a party and it's
exactly.
it's like the fat man is walking alone. The fat man is walking. Oh,
yeah.
Right.
It can't be that obvious.
No, because then everyone knows. Because that's
Yeah.
You have to do it on the down low.
Yeah, but it works with my students too.
That's really smart.
The espresso in Paris is very strong.
Yeah, fourth graders is not my code word. Fourth graders, sorry.
And here's another thing that I'm remembering now. We've sort of cut it out of our sessions, but try to, if you're going to go with a long session, you want to keep things going, make sure they have food, make sure they have water, give them no excuses to because oftentimes I remember we would stop for a dinner break.
Right.
And everything would come to a screeching halt. And it would take a while to get back up and going again.
And that was before we were streaming.
It is. Right. But I think people still game that way. It's let's order pizza.
It's okay to take a break.
Yeah.
Especially if you're going to have a long session. But if you have a long session, you're probably not as worried about pacing.
But I also think, have plenty of snacks, have plenty of beverages, and that way people don't feel the need to I'm hungry. You know what? And it will also keep them focused because they're not getting all hangry.
Right.
If you're noticing that they're going, if it's all in character stuff, but if you're noticing they're starting to just shoot the shit with each other out of character, then I'd actually recommend the opposite. Be okay, let's take a break, and then come back, and that way you're just kind of chill. But you have to kind of as the GM look at what is distracting them. Are they distracted by in-game stuff?
Yeah.
Or are they just burning out and
You do have to read the room.
Yeah.
I remember when we used to real long college games. We'd run 6-8 hours.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And maybe longer. And
we did that in D&D too.
Right. Yeah.
God, we were younger then.
I know.
We were 10 years younger.
Right.
Jesus.
But we would stop. We would game for a while, and we'd get to a certain point where one character is going to have a bunch of interaction with someone or something like that, and we'd go to Denny's.
Yeah.
And then I would sit with whoever that player was and sit and do that whatever that interactive scene was that they needed to do while we were sitting there eating.
Pie.
Well, it was usually chicken fried steak,
sugar,
with butter,
flour.
Yeah.
And then we'd go back and continue gaming, and then we'd get back and go back to.
It's so funny you mention that because Christmas Eve there's a tradition of the family that. Friends and family would go to Denny's at Christmas Eve, and so we went to Denny's this year. And I went this year, and there was a group of people playing D&D in the booth. And I'm like, I had to go and say, you should check out our podcast. And they were like, "Who are you, old hippie?"
Yeah.
So,
old hippie.
Stu almost spit all over his laptop.
What version of D&D were we playing?
I think it was 5e.
Yeah.
I didn't want to interrupt him too long because I felt.
How long they were
Hi, I'm a fellow geek. And it was one of those.
Did you like surreptitiously touch their dice?
I
And
did
walk away?
not. And if any of you guys are actually listening to the podcast after thank you for tuning in. Appreciate it. But remember me? Yeah, we met at Denny's.
It's the old hippie.
He's the old
hippie.
I just assume that's what people think when they see me coming.
Nah,
All
they'll
right.
just be like, do you know Matt Mercer? So we could say, yeah, kind of.
Shit.
I
I did it anyway, but not on my laptop.
I have had that conversation with my daughter's friends. Yes. Yeah. It is a thing that.
Watch your
does get
bag.
brought up.
I know.
We
Send it right over the side. That's a good thing about a concrete floor.
Now's when you do your shtick.
Yeah, all the cool people in LA used to do Ren Fair.
That's right. Yeah.
Right?
It's a lie, but
They still do.
Cool people. The cool people use their enter. All right. Well, I think that's it.
Yeah.
Hey, don't forget 2 p.m. Pacific time on Sunday, February 2nd. Decuma goes live, the Kickstarter.
do the thing.
0202.
It's fine. I'm not nervous or stressed out at all.
Wow. Yeah.
You've set your what's your goal?
At 10 grand.
10 grand. You should have made it 1 million.
Well, we can still get to $1 million. You can set the goal for 10 grand and still get to $1 million. But
Right.
I thought I'd not shoot myself in the foot like that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, there's that.
Keep your
There's the
expectations
possibility that you
reasonable.
won't get $1 million.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a small possibility I won't get $1 million from this Kickstarter for
Reach
card
for the
game.
stars.
Settle for mediocrity. Yes.
All right.
Oh man.
Where's my thing?
I don't know. What thing you were talking about?
See, people are like, why don't they drink anymore? It's like, well, they're 10 years older and we still can't we still can't find things we've been doing for 10 years and we're stone cold sober.
My internet stopped working.
It's a series of
I have to
tubes.
wake up tomorrow.
I'll play the old one.
Oops, sorry.
Okay.
Thank you for joining us for season 26,
26.
episode 4, Happy Jacks RPG Podcast. My name is Stu,
My name is Kimmy.
I'm Stork.
This is Gina.
and we'll see you next week, 7:09 p.m. Pacific time, HappyJacks.org/live, and then
And Sunday.
And Sunday, we're playing. What are we playing again?
Empire
Empire the Masquerade, the Glittering Night. So thank you very much. We'll leave you with a song.
Bye.
You're the girl that I adore, and still I live in hopes to see the holy ground once more. Fine girl you are!
Now the storm is over, and we are safe and well. We'll go into a public house, and we'll sit and drink like hell.
Like hell!
We will drink strong ale and porter, and make the rafters roar. And when our money is all spent, we'll go to sea once more. Fine girl, you're the
girl that I adore, and still I live in hopes to see the holy ground once more. You're the girl that I adore, and still I live in hopes to see the holy ground once more. Fine girl you are!
The preceding program has been a presentation of the Angry Folk Media Empire.
Bum 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 bum.